Doing an amazing job of staying on time, and I'm hoping not to ruin that. I have two competing habits. One, I talk really quickly, which is good for that, but two, I talk a lot. So we'll see how this goes. Welcome everyone, I'm Kelley Kidwell. I'm Associate Chair for Academic Affairs. I'm also the Admissions Chair and an Associate Professor here. So I just want to start off, you've had a lot of welcomes, but again, we're just so glad that you're here. We're so glad that you all made these trips to come, that you're considering Michigan. I know this is a little bit later of an admitted students day, perhaps the last one and the last of the decisions that you're thinking about. And we're just so grateful that you've made space for us, that you've come here and made the time to be here and listen to us. So a little bit more about our department facts and figures. Some of this Bramar mentioned and some of it was asked about. We have one of the largest biostatistics departments, and I actually see that as a massive benefit for Michigan. That means that you have so many students that you can figure out who you connect to, who you connect with, and who can be your cohort here when you come. There's also a relatively big faculty here, and again, I see that as a great benefit in terms of who do you want to work with? You don't need to know. You just come here, and then whatever area you're interested in, there's an expert here. It's not just someone working in that area, it's likely a national and international expert in that area. And so it's amazing for students who, you think, oh, maybe I want to work in this, maybe I want to work in that, I'm not really sure. You just start taking classes, you start meeting professors, you start going to seminars, and then you can figure it out and approach that person to work with them. We mentioned that the master's PhD split is about 170, 103. We anticipate somewhat similar cohort sizes as we move forward. We have 41 faculty, 2,000 alumni, again, another amazing benefit of this program, this awesome alumni network for which you can tap into when you're ready to go on that job market. Just so many great opportunities that are waiting for you there. And we are amazing at research. We have over 38 million in annual research funds, which just means a wealth of opportunities and areas for you to work in. So this year we had a record-breaking number of applications. So your application was one of 898 applications to our master's and PhD program. So congratulations on your admission. We had 580 to the master's, 318 to the PhD. We offered 484 admits to our master's programs and 71 to our PhD program. We were elated to see the number of applications, so many amazing, wonderful, exceptional, bright students, of which you all are a part of. And so we really hope that you can come here to Michigan. This is a little bit about our previous cohorts in terms of their backgrounds. So obviously we have those prerequisites for which you had fulfilled or will fulfill by the time that you come here, of the math classes, calculus, and linear algebra, and intro stats class. However, we really like having a diverse background of students. We feel that diverse backgrounds, diverse students really creates a much better environment for learning and for progressing science. And so you can see that while a majority come from a math, stat, or biostat background, we do have a fair amount from a biology or chemistry background, some business and economics backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, and computer science. Our PhD is a little bit more homogeneous, so many of our PhD students, some of them come from our own biostatistics department, many of them come from undergrad or from other biostatistics or masters in statistics programs. Now that doesn't mean that this was the case last year. It doesn't mean it's always the case moving forward. Bramar also mentioned this wide range of research areas that we have here. I've mentioned it as well in terms of we just have faculty working across every area for which you could be interested in biostatistics, from the more computational to the more applied. There's such a wealth of opportunity here in terms of research, particularly for PhD students, but also potentially for master's students. And master's students are still going to benefit even if they're not doing the research. These professors, these faculty who are in these research areas are teaching the courses and bringing their wealth of knowledge from these research areas into the applications. into these classes. We have a very big importance of diversity, equity, inclusion across everything that we do. This is really something that permeates the pores of our department. It isn't something that just happens at one event. It's something that we're trying to practice every day in all that we do, teaching, learning, applying our statistics. We do have faculty and student committees for DEI. We also have inclusion and intercultural events. There are attempts to make DEI-related seminars, so specific to biostatistics, where we're seeing DEI in the statistics that we have. There's also sometimes a journal club, and there's a much broader group focused on DEI also at the School of Public Health and at the university. There are so many initiatives going forward for which our department is a part of, participating in, and really just able to capitalize on all the opportunities here at the university. So we had this question before about the master's program. So this is the first year in which we have 2 master's programs. We have the master's in biostatistics, and we have a master's in health data science. Our master's in health data science was previously a concentration within our master's of biostatistics, and we decided to make it its own degree. There is a massive overlap in these 2 programs. The core courses are very similar. I'll show you exactly the courses and the differences in the next few slides. But as Bramar mentioned, the Health Data Science Masters has much more emphasis on computation. So there will be specific courses that are laid out in that degree that are based on computation and machine learning and programming. Whereas those courses could be electives for those in the Master's in Biostatistics, but are not required. And so you can kind of think as the Master's in Biostatistics maybe as more traditional. However, you can certainly take those big data or computing courses as your electives. So for both of those programs, they're 48-hour credit hour programs. About 36 of them are in biostatistics courses, and you can fill up the rest of the credits in courses outside of biostatistics. So another wonderful thing here at University of Michigan is that you can take courses anywhere, any department at the University of Michigan. So if you want to take bioinformatics courses, computer science courses, mathematics, statistics, engineering courses, you can certainly sign up for those. We have a very huge list of electives for which students have signed up and count for the degree. And so there's a lot of opportunity to meet others outside of biostatistics as well. Of course, you can also take classes in epidemiology or other public health disciplines too. We do have an epidemiology requirement, 3 credit hours. There's also a public health requirement. And then you fill up the other credit hours with these electives across a variety of disciplines. Now, the master's programs are really trying to have our students end with being a wonderful, amazing, collaborative team member and likely going out into the professional world as a biostatistician or as a data scientist. And so we try to get you that really strong statistical foundation so that you can do that. And we also have implemented some professional development and graduate student skills to lead to that success. The Master's in Biostatistics coursework, so this is the MS in Biostatistics. I'll show you the MS in HDS next, and you'll see the overlap. There are these 4 main courses which are the same between both degrees: Biostat 601, 602, Biostat 650, and 651. And those are the math statistics or probability theory courses plus the regression series. In the Master's in Biostatistics, this red 653, that differs from those who take the HDS. It's not required in the HDS Masters. This is a longitudinal data course and is required in our Biostat Masters. The Biostat Masters also requires Biostat 699. This is unique to the HDS. This is what we term our capstone course. We do not have a master's thesis or a master's exam. Instead, your master's experience culminates with 699, where you will be working on real data sets, applying all of the knowledge that you've learned throughout the master's, and presenting on them, writing up little project reports on them so that you're really ready to go into the workforce and do that with real data in the workforce. The rest of your elective hours are split between specific biostatistics course electives, and then you can choose either biostatistics or other discipline electives. So the Health Data Science Masters has that 4 main courses, the probability, math, stat theory, plus the regression series without 653, but then adds on these computational and programming courses. So there's Biostat 620, 625, and 626, which focus on Intro to Health Data Science, machine learning, and computing. And then instead of Biostat 699 for the Biostatistics Masters, the culminating experience for the Health Data Science degree is Biostat 629, which is very similar. It's a culminating experience with case studies and big data. There's a little bit different in terms of where your electives are coming from in the HDS coursework. You have to take one of a certain number of biostatistics electives, and also one of 2 options for computing electives, and then the rest of the electives you can choose from whether they come from biostatistics or other disciplines. Like I said, we really want you to leave with your master's being an amazing collaborative team member and/or professional. And one way in which we're doing that is we piloted this professional development course this past year, and next year we will be offering it, and it's highly, highly suggested that you sign up for this. It's a 1-credit course in the fall, 1 credit in the winter. It's called Graduate School and Professional Success Skills. So this is really a course that's going to give everyone a baseline coming in, really trying to reach some equity of understanding potential hidden curriculum, understanding how you can best use your advisors, how you can get mentored, how you can figure out research opportunities. Also to figure out, being a biostatistician, you have so many opportunities at your hands. You search for so many different terms to figure out what it is that the next step is for your job. So we try to give you some help in that. There's a number of different objectives here along with things that we talk about. So we're really trying at the beginning to give you some skills to survive, not just survive, but also thrive as a graduate student. But then also the variety of career opportunities, prepare for internships and job opportunities. Most likely in the master's program, you'll want to be looking for an internship between your 1st and 2nd year. So we'll try to provide you with the resources to really prepare for that. And then skills, really in the 2nd semester, we're focused a lot more on the skills for becoming a great professional. And so leadership skills, collaborative skills, writing, presentation skills. It's just a wonderful way to round out the statistical foundation that you're getting in your biostat classes, to kind of focus on maybe some of those soft skills, but incredibly important skills that will put you above and beyond your other biostatistics colleagues, because you're getting some experience with them here. So again, this is highly suggested. It is not required, but I think it should be required. And so if you do come here, look for signing up for Biostat 611 in the fall, and then also 612. Now, while this is somewhat focused for the master's program, 1st-year PhDs, any-year PhDs, anyone can actually take this class. And so anyone should feel that they're welcome and that they will gain a lot from this course, especially your 1st years coming in. For those of you who have been accepted to our PhD program, or maybe thinking about after the master's what you'd be interested in, our PhD program is typically 3 to 4 years post earning your master's. So if you're coming from undergrad and accepted into our PhD program, you'll go through the 2 years of the master's program. You'll be a part of this PhD cohort, but also the master's cohort. And then you'll probably have about another year of courses, and then you'll start working really on your dissertation. So it's typically 5 to 6 years for your PhD here. There's the master's coursework, and then there's additional PhD level coursework, so more advanced statistical inference series, advanced calculus, and we require stochastic processes, and then a number of different elective courses. We currently still have 1 qualifying exam, so this occurs usually after either your 1st PhD year of coming in with a master's or your 2nd year if you're coming in without a master's. It's one exam that actually is based on the 4 core courses of the master's program, 601, 602, 650, and 651. This exam is not an attempt to weed you out. This exam is an attempt to get you to figure out, wow, all of that information was really useful, and here's how I put it together, and here's how I show myself how much I've learned over the last year or two. And so it's really just an amazing learning opportunity to bring it all together, to apply it, and to be like, yes, I am ready to move forward and take on my dissertation. So we really try to help support our students in passing this exam. There are study groups usually that are made between students. It usually happens at the end of May or the very beginning of June. So our classes end usually at the end of April. There's at least a month to study, if not more. This is something that we want you to be able to see what you've learned and how you can move forward. Then you start working on your dissertation. So you figure out who do you want to work with, what do you want to work on. We generally have a 3-chapter dissertation. This is developing statistical theory in multiple areas. It could be in any area, and you might be just based in one area, or you might maybe you have a co-advising model and your 3 chapters are semi-unrelated. They don't have to be step-by-step related to them. The PhD program is really trying to train you to be a team leader. So, whether you decide to go into industry or academia, we're hoping to produce leaders in the field with our PhD program. Here's a little bit about our funding. So all PhD students are fully funded, meaning that your tuition is paid for along with you receive a stipend. In return, generally, we have that you are either a GSRA, which is a graduate student research assistant, or a graduate student instructor. You could potentially also be what's called a fellow, so a member of one of our training grants. And these fully funded awards come with, most of the time, usually some work that you're doing. So that teaching assistant position or the research assistant position, usually about up to 20 hours of work per week in return for that funding. So last year, the primary funding source is through our graduate student research assistantships. So these are generally where you're working with a faculty member working on their project, either theory development and/or collaborative work. We also have a number of teaching assistant positions or our graduate student instructor positions. These are generally for the service biostatistics courses, so the biostatistics courses for which other disciplines in the School of Public Health take. So often, if you're accepted without much research experience, you might be a graduate student instructor first. And then you can change to a graduate student research along the way. For our master's program, the primary way of funding for which we've had for the last few years is actually via tuition awards. And so last year we had 15 tuition awards, for which most of them were a quarter, some of them were 50% of tuition. And this goes directly to the student. The student does not work on top of that, just part of their tuition is paid for. Now, if you're coming in without a promise of funding, we are very grateful that you're considering us, and we want you to know that there are other opportunities for research here. So it's not just through a funded mechanism. You will hear from the students about StatCom, and this is a wonderful way to get collaborative applied biostatistics research experience. This is a volunteer student-run organization that has just done amazing things, and I'll let the students talk much more about that. We also have a course called Biostat 610. This is readings in biostatistics, for which you can ask a professor to work with you over a semester. It's a 1 credit. You may read and also do some research, engage in some research as part of your learning experience. There's also the opportunity to be hired on an hourly basis. So we have these temp hourly positions, for which often our faculty will just kind of like send an email out, oh, I have this position, who's interested, and/or you might contact a faculty member and they might say, oh yes, I have an opportunity, you can work for me hourly. That can happen within our department. It can also happen across other departments. So you can reach out to people in epidemiology or statistics or other areas, maybe the medical school, for which they're looking for some help. And then if you don't necessarily have a graduate student research assistantship throughout the semester, there may be an opportunity to get one in the summer. So students are much more affordable in the summer because we're not paying tuition as well. And so there's the opportunity that if you are able to make some sort of relationship with a professor throughout the school year, you might ask them via email or in person, hey, do you have any opportunities in the summer for which I could work for you? And that could definitely happen. Alternatively, we send out many lists for which internship opportunities exist out there. The biggest one being the American Statistical Association list of internship opportunities that usually comes out in November or December. We circulate that among our students as well as any other opportunities that we hear of. And you can apply for those internship opportunities and have an internship in the summer. Like I said, I will actually let the students talk about StatCom because they can give a much greater explanation and description of what this wonderful entity is, but just know that it is something that some other institutes have, but is really an amazing and somewhat unique opportunity that you can get here as well. So in terms of, so what do our students do? So they go through this training, they get this amazing education, then what? So job opportunities are there's so many job opportunities, right? Across a wide variety of areas. People are looking for quantitatively skilled statisticians, data scientists. Our reputation precedes us and provides many opportunities for our students. Many of our students go into academia, into research centers and or industry, and I'll show you the breakdown by degrees in a few slides. We really try our best to help our students with jobs. Many of our students, almost all of our students, they really don't have a hard time finding these jobs. We have posts that we circulate through the department. We also host recruiters. We're looking forward to hosting or co-hosting a job fair in the next year or two with the statistics department. We have something called the Alumni Spotlight, such that we bring in or we virtually cast alumni every month from either our MS program or our PhD program. They talk about what they do and how their degree has helped them get there, and then there's opportunities for our students to meet with them. Our professional development and success skills course is really helping our students with getting many more resources and opportunities to strengthen those skills and needs for finding these jobs and internships. We also have a professional development lead, Lacey Hoffman, who helped us today, and she is there for our students to help them as well. And then our school public health has a wonderful career services office and connections that are very helpful for our students. So here are just a few places for which our graduates have gone to. So you can see anywhere from sort of the tech industry to pharmaceuticals to government, to academia, just a wide variety of opportunities, financial institutions that are available to our graduates. If you want to take a more detailed look, this is the career placement for our master's students from 2015 to 2020. You can see that 33% went to industry, 29% went on to a PhD at University of Michigan Biostatistics, 12% went on to a PhD elsewhere. 17% went into research at like a university or hospital. 5% we are not sure, and 4% went into government or nonprofit. So again, just a huge wealth of opportunities that are there for our students. In terms of our PhD career placement, over half went into industry. Almost 30% went into academia. 10% went into government or nonprofit. There are just amazing opportunities, and we're not trying to push you one way or the other. We really want you to choose the best thing for you. So if you're a fully funded student, your next steps, well, for everyone, your next step is your decision, right? And that's due by April 15th. So whether you're funded or not, please let us know. Hopefully a positive check of our box that you're coming to University of Michigan Department of Biostatistics. Even if you decide not to come here, it's really helpful to know. So please let us know either way as soon as you know that decision. For funded students, you'll be sent a questionnaire to ask about your funding preferences, so whether you would like to teach or do research, and if you are going to teach, what classes would you teach, and if you're going to do research, who would you want to work with. And then we do some matching. So this is a departmental process for which Nicole and I sit down and we try to say, okay, here's what the students wanted, here's what the faculty wanted, how do we get this best to work so that we can hopefully get people their top choices, both on the student and faculty side. At the end of August, there will be a new student orientation. We'll try to acclimate you to the department and to the university. And then the first day of classes is August 29th. For other master's students, your next steps, obviously deciding whether you're coming here or not. And then if you were not promised funding, you should come join the master's program to be prepared to pay for the 4 semesters of the school. These funding opportunities are matched by the department. There could potentially be opportunities that arise, either tuition and/or GSRAs or GSRIs. They're usually with the academic year, but it's not a high probability, so please be prepared to either find some other type of funding financial support and/or to pay those 4 semesters. So I just want to end on our public health values. As Bramar mentioned, some of these, the statistics, the biostatistics are incredibly important, but so is you as a whole. So your mental health, your emotional health, your intellectual health, your social health. We're really interested in trying to support all of that. So we believe in compassion, we believe in innovation, we believe in inclusion, and we pursue impact. There's opportunity to ask questions at a lot of the time today, so I'll take a few questions right after this. Otherwise, we'll have faculty roundtables where you can ask faculty more questions, and you'll have the opportunity to ask students more questions. If you come up with questions after you leave here and/or you don't feel comfortable saying them, please feel free to email any of us, Nicole, Fatma, or myself. We are the core admissions team for which we'd be happy to consider any questions. Often, if you email me, I will forward it to Fatma and Nicole because I just don't know. But please, you're welcome to email me, and I will try my best to make sure that we get the answers for you. So with that, thank you so much again for coming, and I'd be happy to take any questions. And we have a microphone now for questions. Yes. Any questions? Over here. Go, Nicole.
So I'm wondering if I take the GSRA, and will they consider it as a rotation tab or?
Oh, great question. Okay, so are the GSRAs like a rotation? So primarily, no. You are assigned a GSRA for a year, and we anticipate that you will keep that for a year. That is a departmental match. There is the potential that it could change the following year, but if it's going well and the faculty member would still like to work with you, we generally like to keep that going.
So you mean that in the second year I may change the mentor? Is that what you mean?
You can potentially, although we really hope that these are longer term relationships that you're building.
Yeah, I see. Thank you.
I was wondering, if you're employed as a GSRA, what are the expectations in, let's say, coming into the office versus opportunities maybe if you want to work remotely for a period of time? What's typically the relationship there?
That's a great question, and really I would say it's probably very individual to the advisor that you're going to work with. So I think it's very important to have very clear and open communication, direct communication as soon as you start here with your academic and GSRA advisor about that. So just giving them, talking to them. I meet with some of my students online and I meet with some of them in person, and it's just sort of their preference. And as long as work and productivity is moving forward, I don't mind. But others may have other preferences.
I was wondering, how often is a student's GSRA mentor also their dissertation mentor,
great
or are
question.
those often kept separate?
I'm glad you asked that because I was just thinking that I wanted to answer that question. So I can't give you a percentage, but what I can tell you is that many times a student, when they start their GSRA, that individual, that advisor, becomes their dissertation advisor. Many times, also, on the other hand, there are for many students, they work with someone for their GSRA and they work with someone else for their dissertation. And so just because you have a GSRA doesn't mean that that is the person that you have to work with. You can go to another professor and ask them if they'd be willing to advise you on their dissertation. That is totally appropriate, happens a lot in the department, so there's really a lot of choice there.
GSRA positions, are those considered, or are master's students with partial funding considered for those as well, or is that more geared towards like the PhD program students?
So the graduate student research assistantships are generally more toward the PhD students. The partial funding, in terms of if you are offered tuition funding, that does not involve any graduate student instructor or graduate student research assistantships.
Okay.
Can I add one?
Yes.
thing? There are sometimes some opportunities for temp hourly positions that can pair nicely with a tuition.
Yes.
So when it comes to those extra departmental electives,
Yes.
If a course has been previously denied for that on that open elective spreadsheet, is that decision final?
Not necessarily. We have done a fair amount in the curriculum committee over the last year trying to figure out which courses should be allowed to be open electives and which shouldn't. So there is an updated spreadsheet. However, I think you can always go to the curriculum committee chair and ask the reason why and or make a case, potentially depending upon the course.
Hi, I was wondering, for the GSRA positions, how often do students get their top choice during that matching process? And also, do all faculty members have GSRA positions available?
Let me start with the latter. No, all faculty members do not have GSRA opportunities available, however, many do. And then how often does a student get their top choice? Really often, but what do you think, Nicole? Could we quantify it?
I don't like quantifying anything. There are often.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, okay.
You got it. Yeah, there you go.
I would say that it is very likely that top requests are matched, because oftentimes the faculty member has already spoken to a number of students that they're considering, and so you may already have a really good feeling for that person, and so, yeah.
Very often,
works
certainly
out.
top three, I would
Yeah.
say.
It works out
Yes.
quite most frequently that we're able to match top choices on both sides. There is a question
Do you have a
online.
question? Great.
So Angel Chang asked, for a master's student with funding working as a GSRI, will we be working over the summer as well, or can we also do external summer internships?
Great question. And so often students will continue to work here in the summer if they have a GSRA. Oftentimes that relationship or the project that you're working on just kind of naturally continues in the summer. However, you can also have a discussion with your GSRA advisor if you would like to have an opportunity to have an internship somewhere else. That can also potentially occur. And that's also the same for PhD students. So typically we think that you will stay and continue to work on your dissertation over the summer. However, if later in your PhD years you really want an opportunity somewhere else, you can have that discussion with your advisor and potentially continue working on your dissertation while you're also getting some external experience. Any other questions? Oh, here's one over here.
I remember that
on one of the slides that you showed, you mentioned that we can have minor in master.
If that was on the slides, no.
Okay.
There is no minor. There previously was a concentration in health data science in the Masters of Biostatistics, but now since we have 2 masters, there's no minor or concentrations, but you can choose your own electives. So like if you want to put together some sort of, some set of classes that make some sense to you that follow some specific route, you can certainly do that, but your degree will not say minor in or concentration in.
Got it. So if I'm interested in epidemiology, I can take those classes as electives, right?
Sure, yes. You have a number of open electives for which you can take. For that, many epidemiology courses are counted for, but you do have a number of biostatistics courses that you still need to take as electives as well.
Got it. Thank you.
I was wondering, so for the time to degree, you were saying for it's like 3 to 4 years for masters and 5 to 6 coming from bachelors. I was wondering if there's like any variation in terms of students who do their dissertation project on different topics, like genomics as opposed to cancer, or more like mathematical methods type work.
I have not seen an analysis broken down like that, so I don't know. I doubt it. I think it's just more individual variability than subject level variability. But I cannot provide a p-value for that. I have not done that analysis.
So you mentioned it was like easier to get a GSRA if you already have research experience. How much research experience were you looking for that?
So it's not necessarily easier. We do our best to do this matching based on your interests and your experience, and oftentimes students who are coming directly from undergrad and haven't really done research, we might be more likely to make you a teaching assistant at first for one of the introductory biostat courses if you've taken those types of classes. Alternatively, if you're really interested in research and someone else sees your file and thinks that that's a great match, they might choose you. So I can't really quantify the level of research required. You should feel free to put whatever your interests are on that like matching sheet that you get. All right, I used up more than my fair share of time, but I think it was great to hear all of those questions, and hopefully you have many, many more questions for the students as well. So I think they will be coming up next. Thank you so much.